Welcome to another Saturday night of Taking It to the Nub. And this now is season 5. We're going on 5 years doing Taking It to the Nub. And it is going to be an exciting year, but we're kicking it off this year with my good friend and many of yours, Steve Saka. But before we do that, we have to put out some advertising, as we always do, to keep everything rolling. And today's show is brought to you by Casa Cuevas Cigars. In the 19th century, Juan Cuevas, Spanish immigrant from Santander, began what was to be a family business which now spans 4 generations. Like others fortunate enough to live and work in Pinar del Rio province of Cuba, Juan commenced cultivating tobacco, turning it into a successful business. Following in his father's footsteps, his son Juan Jr. continued with the family business, successfully expanding it until events which took place in 1959 forced a dramatic change. Years later, in the Ciabo Valley of the Dominican Republic, Luis Cuevas Sr., Juan Jr.'s son, carried on the family tradition of handcrafting fine cigars in the family's cigar factory, Tabacalera Las Lavas. Today, Luis Sr. is joined by his son Luis Jr. in the manufacturing and sale of premium long filler cigars at their factory, Tabacalera Las Lavas in Santiago, Dominican Republic. So check out Casa Cuevas Cigars at www.casacuevascigars.com and on their Instagram and Facebook channels. All right. Let's bring Steve in. There you are, Steve.
No, dude. I'm still
happy happy Three Kings Day. I mean, it's
Three Kings Day. Is that what this is?
today's Three Kings Day. This is the real Little Christmas. This is what they call Little Christmas, when the three kings finally showed up.
Man, I thought they were more timely than that. Shows you what I know.
Yeah,
No,
it's
I was trying to
that rot
figure out how to
account.
do the link. I thought it would be on Stogie Press, but then I realized you do it
It's on a
live
Boston Jimmie.
on Boston Jimmie. So that's what that's why I was away.
Yeah,
I think I got it
that's
working now, so I think I'm good.
okay. That's good. Well, welcome, and you kick off year 5, season 5 of Taking It to the Nub. I can't believe how fast time has gone by.
I can't believe you do. I gotta tell you, I don't think people realize what a commitment it is to first to do the website, then to do the reviews, then to do the podcast and the vidcast. I mean, it's a lot of time and a lot of effort. And I mean, how long have you been doing this? Like a decade plus now, right?
It's a decade. It's a decade now. So I'll be
Yeah,
doing
I
10
mean,
years, celebrate a PCA this year. You're doing, even what you're doing in Dumbarton is what, 9 or is it 10?
yeah, this will be our 9th year because our
Okay.
10th anniversary will be in 2025.
5,
Yes.
right. It's a personal commitment to just keep doing this. And I have something, and you and I spoke privately about this, and I'm not launching it to the world yet, but I'm trying to set something even better in it by PCA to show some people what we're really trying to accomplish. And it's got my technical brain focused, right? So I leave engineering from a career, but now I'm trying to figure out, I have to do some coding, I have to do some integrations of things. So I'm like, to do what I want to do requires me to learn a whole bunch of stuff and put it together.
Yeah, but it's also a huge difference, though. I mean, what I'm doing at Dunbarton actually, you know, I earn money at. I feed my family doing it. It's,
Oh yeah,
whereas for you guys that do these podcasts and reviews, I mean, yeah, I know you have a little bit of advertisement, but look, it's a passion project. I mean,
of
you're just
course it
you're
is.
just hoping that all that stuff covers your cost, really. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Cigars you buy and the trip to the PCA and
I'm
you're lucky
going.
if it does. I mean, I think for a
Yeah,
lot of people, it helps to like soften the blow a little, but I mean, there's very few media places out there that are actually making money that they can earn a living doing it. I mean, it's really
right.
so it's much different the
We
fact that you
we.
put 10 years into doing essentially free labor. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
lot.
And and let's be real, the media, we do a lot of promotional, work for cigar brands, whether
Oh
it
yeah,
be these
absolutely.
shows, whether they're putting in some paid sponsorship, whether
Do
it's
I
just
advertise for
constantly
you, don't I?
posting out. Yes, you do, sir.
Okay, see, I can't
Thank
keep
you.
track of who I do and I don't, but let's say if I don't, I would. Because I try to advertise with most of the small bloggers, media guys, because I know that they help get the message out and they make cigars, they make it more accessible to the public. They're actually providing a service to the industry. Even
They
when
do,
you get the
yeah.
bad review, it's still a service to the industry. Like I recently got a not a bad review, but a mediocre review on something, and it led me to a problem in production. Okay, so even
Oh,
there it
that's
provided a
good.
service.
That's really
So
good that
like,
it
hey,
does.
I found out something. Oh, we made this mistake. Now I know why this is, and you go correct it. So no, there's a real value. There's a value to the consumer, but there's also a value to the brand owners and the manufacturers that are willing to not just look at all you guys as though you're total assholes. You know what I mean? I mean, you're assholes, but not total. You know what I mean? You gotta kind of
That's
like you gotta thread the needle and figure that out. And a guy like you in particular, I mean, I think I made a comment when I posted this yesterday. You're like the king of boutiques, right? You review brands that are like,
I, I
oh,
was the site. I mean, realize the site 10 years ago was birthed on small brands. Right when we first started it, people found out about me through my postings, and they were sending me some stuff to review, and I was doing things with them. And I always know where my roots came from. All right, and everybody was small at one time. All right.
right, everybody.
As a guy who has a media site doing what I do, I don't consider myself the tiny guy anymore, but I'm not the behemoth in the room. So I've grown, but I never forgot that these guys that are coming into the fray, even now as small companies, they need a voice.
Yeah,
People have never heard of them, and they suddenly see something on my site. They go, "What is that?" And then they find out, let me go get it. And they're like, wow, this actually is a good cigar. And that is a good company. Maybe I should buy some of their product more often. And I've gotten compliments from some small companies in the past that, I would put out a review, even if it's not a totally raving review, that it helped move their needle ever so slightly. They would say, man, when that came out, people started asking where they buy them, and they started seeing numbers go up. And I'm like, if I did that, I feel great that I was able to help somebody move something,
yeah.
because again, we're in the business to help
And also, again,
everybody.
you're also introducing consumers to it also. Because
Right.
look, the retailers aren't going to do it. I mean, the shelf space is so limited, so highly competitive. I mean, these really small brands, it's really hard for them to get any sort of penetration at all.
Oh,
I mean, it's
that's
just, yeah. I mean, look, they gotta fight with the big guys. They gotta fight with the medium guys. They gotta fight with the small guys like me. In fact, it was kind of funny anecdotally. My wife made a comment. She saw your top list, right? But she couldn't remember who it was. But she said, "Oh, well, you're in the medium company." I'm like, "Medium company? Or medium company?
I
How are we
saw
a
that post
medium
that you put out.
company?" Right? And so
Let's
and I
put
was
it.
like, I didn't make any sense, right? And then once I figured out who it was, like, oh, well, then it does make sense because in Boston Jimmy's world, yeah. we're a medium company because
Uh,
he's got these like micro
We have
companies.
micro companies, and I'm like, you're not a
Yeah.
micro, and I don't think you're exactly the large guy, and that's always a fine. There's a line there, and it's not an
You
exact
know what I find interesting
science.
is like, how did you like determine that Eric Espinoza is in the large category? And I'm because I look
He's
at
got
like,
his own factory.
it's a
Come
tiny
on, it
factory. Come
doesn't
on.
matter. He has his own factory. He makes cigars for other people
All
constantly.
right. That's the
Okay,
Hey, look,
you know,
every place has their own criteria. I just wondered what was the
right.
differentiator because
The criteria can vary between
yeah.
those two, between medium and large, but one of them is that, you got your own factory. Some people have their own fields. I mean, you're making cigars for other people. I don't know. It's a tough call every year. And
Yeah, there's
I'm
no
going to
way
be honest,
anybody in a bucket. I mean, to be honest with you, it's tough.
but to do it, it at least allows me to, because I used to just focus on the small companies, like you said. And I realized that, as I'm growing, I need to make sure everything's
Well,
covered.
let me say this too. You're hurting your micro companies because like when you review a cigar from a more popular company, like a Foundation or
Hmm.
Espinosa or whoever, Florida Dominicana, that's going to bring more viewers to your site. And then what'll end up happening is they come to read the Papa Saka review, but then they poke around. They go, oh, well, what is this one from Black Star? What is this one from
Right.
whoever this person is? So you actually help your littler companies by having some of the larger companies in the mix that actually get you the SEO to bring you consumers to
Ex-
the site to read.
that's
So
that's
it
correct.
actually helps those guys too, whether
It,
they
it
realize it
does.
or not, but it does.
Oh no, they do, and they've told me that they see the cross traffic coming back to them. But in the end, I have to make sure that I have categories because some people, the little guys don't have all the resources, but there's still someone making phenomenal cigars. They
Right.
might be connected with somebody that is, they're working with an AJ. It gives them a
Right.
shot.
Well, look,
So
all the
they got
micro guys are
something.
working with somebody larger.
Of
I
course
mean,
they are.
yeah, they have to be. So there's no way around that. But yeah, no,
But it
it's
doesn't always mean they're getting the best of the best, as you know, right?
yeah,
I mean,
but it doesn't always have to be the best of the best to be great either. You know, I think everything has to be judged in an individual bubble. I don't think that I mean, look, when you get right down to it in the end, it's a question of did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Did you
yeah.
feel as though you got value for the money, or did you feel like you didn't get value for the money? Um, Look, there's a lot of really great companies with a lot of brands that really aren't as good as some of the small ones, and vice versa. Look, the biggest challenge as a small company is just A, getting your message out, almost impossible. B, getting any sort of market penetration, almost impossible. And then the other challenge that you have product wise is it's hard to get consistent product because you're just not making it all the time. You're doing it in all these little batches. And that's one of the dilemmas that you have when you find a micro thing that you really like. I always say to consumers, you know what? I hope they can continue to grow it. But if you really, really love it, buy 3, 4, 5 boxes, put it away because they may not be able to hit that curve at this part of their cycle again. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Doesn't mean that they won't go on to, but at this moment in time when you're doing that, it's a real challenge. Consistency is always the challenge. It's a challenge for me. It's a challenge for everybody. I mean, it's a challenge for even the biggest of bigs. So, I mean, and for the micro guys, it's even a bigger challenge. So,
So this year, 23, you you had another whopping year as far as cigar of the year list
so
so
many
far.
cigars.
I've been trying. I'm not going to step on the half wheels final consensus stuff and all of that, but I did go through a number of the existing lists that have either been published or partially been published, and everybody's finished putting out their numbers and everything yet. But you're showing up already like Coop has you three times. Twice on his list.
Yeah,
So
I
you're
think
twice on his with the with
Bewitched got on there, and what else
the
got on there?
Bewitched and the Saka Khan.
Yeah,
Okay, Dojo's got you on with the Krakatoa.
Yeah.
JR's got you twice with the Papa Saka and the Krakatoa.
Yeah.
I've got you on there with the Krakatoa, the Papa Saka, and oh, by the way, even though it's a kind of shop exclusive, and people get angry at me because I put shop exclusive ones on there. But hey, it's a cigar. It came out, the Dundorma. That was a really nice cigar.
Well, thank you. Like
Okay.
again, everybody makes
Surprisingly,
their
it's
list
like that.
differently, right?
And then
Some
Tiny
people,
Tim, and Tiny Tim has you on there with
yeah,
the
I make quite a
Krakatoa
few
and the
lists.
Papa.
I made it. I think I've been on a dozen or so of these individual lists. I saw like on Vintage Cigar, I made one of his numbers, but it was something odd. It was Todos Los Dias, and then like Bob Finley, I'm on his list, but he gave me number one on Wagashi. Bob, thank you, but doesn't help me for consensus in any way whatsoever. But hey, it is what it is. You know, and I also see some people that in the past have always like really like always made sure I was somewhere on their list, and they're like intentionally not putting me on their list because that also happens. And look, maybe they didn't like the cigar, so let's give them the benefit of the doubt. But there's also a part of just human nature where, okay, enough of that guy. He's been at the top of these lists too long. Let me put somebody else there. Look, there's plenty of great cigars in the marketplace.
There are. I mean, you came up against. I'll be honest with you and the rest of the audience. When I did every year when I do the list, ever since I started putting my numbers on cigars, which I started about 4 plus years ago, it making picking the list it make it a little bit easier because I go down on numbers. Okay, well, if the highest numbered value that's if there's nothing else, that value that's number one. I mean, it's pretty
Right.
easy, right? Well, this year it wasn't so easy because there was the Krakatoa, there was the Perdomo 20th anniversary
20th or
sungrown,
30th.
huh?
The 20th or the 30th?
The 30th anniversary
The 30th,
sungrown.
right. Yeah.
Okay. There was the Davidoff Millennial Lancero, and then there was the Ohana Nue cigar.
And two of those I hadn't smoked. I hadn't smoked the Ohana and I haven't smoked the Davidoff. So
Davidoff is
Lancero's not
kick
my
ass.
jam, so I wouldn't go out of my way to
Yeah.
smoke.
So 4 cigars, all with the same number, and surprisingly, notes that were rather similar, but there was some uniqueness. And I had to go
Right.
back and smoke a couple of them each later to sit back and get my head readjusted and say, well, who's number one? How do I pick that? And
But
and it
number
believe me,
one
I
is such an
struck.
arbitrary thing, right? So the way I always look at these lists is I look at them from the perspective. First off, you want to be mentioned, obviously, but in the end, if you're number 7 or you're number 16, if you made someone's top 20 cigars in a given year, it's a pretty fucking good cigar as far as they're concerned because
Right.
there's hundreds of cigars, there's thousands of cigars,
That's
right? So
correct.
what ranks 1 or 2 or 3? It's a little bit, it's
Well,
very arbitrary. I mean, there is no way anyone could ever I can't even tell you what our best cigar is. If you said, Steve, put your cigars in order of top 10.
you can't do
No, I can give you 10 cigars that I think are like, hey, these are ones that I think are worthy of you trying and smoking. These I think are amongst some of our best cigars, but which is the best? That's always going to come down to individual likes, dislikes, your feeling at the moment, your mood at the moment, what you're eating, what you're drinking, where
it.
you're
Yeah.
smoking it. I mean, there's so many contributing factors that are just, but the question is, hey, it's either a really good cigar or it isn't a really good cigar. So that's kind of the way I look
And
at the top list. I look at
and
it
if
as,
you look at the lists, like you said, I think what you're saying is spot on. And I like to explain to people, especially consumers, do not look at a single list. Don't just look at a Cigar Aficionado, a Cigar Journal, a Boston Jimmie, Stogie Press, a Cigar Coupe, a Half Wheel. Look at multiple lists and examine the ones and find the ones that have a cigar that is on multiple lists. Like you said, it doesn't matter where it is in that list. But
yeah,
if that's a cigar you haven't had and there's 5 lists that identify
it's what,
it,
look, I
you
crush
might
it.
want to try it.
I crush in the consensus. So obviously I love the consensus, right?
Of course you do.
But but at the same time, I look at the consensus, and even though, again, you could argue that, I mean, what, I was number one, number three, number five last year. Did I really have the one, three, and five in one year? No. But what I did have is I had the one, three, and five were mentioned multiple times on multiple lists by multiple people. So therefore, when you look at that consensus list, it's a pretty good way for you to look at, hey, this is a distillation of a lot of reviewers. And here's a way for you to go, hey, let me look at these 25 cigars that made this top consensus. Which of these 25 haven't I smoked?
Right.
Or what did I smoke and it didn't really float my boat? Maybe because a lot of times I'll go back and say, oh, man, that cigar got number four in the like knuckle sandwich. Knuckle sandwich for me was okay. And I'm not disparaging cigar, it just didn't work for my palate.
Right.
But it making it so high in consensus last year, it made me go back and revisit the cigar. Right? Let me revisit this cigar. Let me try this again. Maybe what am I not absorbing that all these other individuals that ended up making it, whatever it was, number two, number four, number six. I can't remember what number it ended up, but so I use the list in that way too. I use it to identify cigars that I should try or cigars that I should try again.
Hey,
And I think that's the best way to use the list personally.
and that's spot on. That's people should look at it that way. And again, going back to what we do as the media, I mean, we do a service to say here's what we think, and everybody else can then use it for what they want. They can wipe their ass with the list, or they can actually use it for intelligence and do something with it. We have some comments coming in, by the way, so this is always a good
Yeah, I
show
can't see the
here.
comments just so everybody knows.
Yeah. So, Robert Cruz, the commish, and a few others are asking, when is the Sin Compromiso firecracker coming out?
That's Kamish's personal little thing. Never, not a chance in hell.
There you go. Answered is answered.
I'll tell you, I'll tell you what the problem is with a firecracker. It's so tiny. You can't make any money making it. It's like
Mhm.
it's such a disastrous cigar. First off, I couldn't make a firecracker if I didn't do it through two guys, because as far as I'm concerned, firecracker is their thing. They're the ones that came up with the 3.5 by 50 with that long fuse of a pigtail. I know other people do it separate. That's fine. I just choose to treat it as though it's their intellectual property and choose not to do it. Okay. So it would have to be through them. But the problem is there's no money in it. It's impossible because to make the little cigar and to make it right, it just costs so damn much that what's a Sin Compromiso firecracker is like a $13 cigar without the box. You know what I mean? Retail wise, you put in the box, it's in the same price as Intrepido.
Mm,
The 5 and 5/8 by 46, 48 doesn't cost less to make the firecracker, a little tiny bit because you get a little less tobacco in it, but all the work is the same. And that's the challenge with all the small formats. Look, when you have a large factory and you're making like millions of Macanudos, right? And you're making Macanudo, 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 you're going to end up with a lot of short material that you need to utilize.
right.
So therefore, you end up making these smaller sizes as a byproduct of making the larger sizes.
That way
But
you can maximize your
right,
yield.
you're just trying to so you cash recover on those materials. But I don't need to do that. I don't have a reason to do that. I'm actually going to take longer materials and I'm going to waste half of them to make this little tiny cigar. So it's actually in some weird way, it doesn't cost less. So here you go, you make this firecracker size and Sin Compromiso, and now you release it. And what ends up happening? The consumer says, well, this guy's an asshole. He wants $16 for this cigar. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a no-win scenario. Because if you charge what it really costs, you end up getting beat up in perception by the consumer. And then the second problem of all of this is even if you can like overcome that hurdle, which we kind of did when I was at Drew Estate when we first did the Dirty Rat. Dirty Rats out of the box, out of the gate were like $12 a piece. And everybody's like, $12. And I was just kind of listen, it's $12. Buy it, don't buy it. I don't care. That's the price. Because if we didn't make Dirty Rats, we would make number nines or T52 Toros, which we could sell for $14. So this is the way it is. And it ended up surviving and it ended up doing well in the marketplace. But the other challenge that you have, so even if you overcome that consumer issue, you can't get the retailer to put it on the shelf. There are so few retailers that are willing to carry small formats. It's crazy. I mean, you cannot convince them to buy Coronas. You can't convince them to buy Lanceros. You can't convince them to buy. I can tell you right, Sober Mesa Brulee Blue is a home run. But if it wasn't in the with the blue band and the whole of this and the huge amount of consumer support it gets, there's not a damn retailer on the planet that would stock that Lonsdale size Sober Mesa Brulee. They would not stock it. They would not buy it.
So Kamish brought up another comment segueing into what you just said, which is we had this debate / argument the other night too about it privately. Packaging,
Yeah,
branding, how important it is. And I
crazy
told him, I
important.
said when you look at reviews, you go back to lists, how people do lists, how they come up with numbers, how they define. I don't put any credence on packaging
Well, you
as
shouldn't,
far
nor
as the
are you,
cigar.
but you're not rating the packaging.
That's
you're
what
rating
I told
the
him.
cigar. But here's
Right.
the problem. I need the consumer to buy this cigar. I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to get a great rating. Okay. There's plenty of cigars that don't get great ratings that sell plenty. But what you
Mm.
do need is you need the consumer to buy the cigar. So, and the packaging is regretfully a requirement. How it's packaged and how it displays on the shelf, A, it's going to determine whether retailers even going to be willing to put it on the shelf.
Like before the
B,
show,
it's going to determine
we
whether
talked
it's going to
about that.
determine, right. I mean, it's going to determine whether the average consumer, because the world is not made up of Steve Sakas and Boston Jimmies and the commish. The world is made up of the guys that basically they go to the store on Thursday, they pick up a few cigars for the weekend, they're going to play golf, they're going to smoke while they're doing their
And they're
barbecue.
eyeballing.
Yeah, they're eyeballing that shelf. It's all brown and round, right? It all looks the same. So those bands and those boxes, I wish they didn't matter. It make my life easier. I don't make any money on that shit. It's a pain in the ass. The packaging is one of our biggest like thorns in our sides constantly. But if it wasn't necessary, we would all not do it. The sad part is it is necessary. And no matter how many times consumers tell us it isn't, the market never proves that true because every time anyone does something that isn't, it always fails.
So do you sell in Canada?
No,
Okay.
not
Because I'd
currently.
be curious. I'd be curious to see what this how things worked on that. Because as you know, Canada has all plain packaging,
Right.
right? So when you get to these plain package cards, what about Ireland?
No, I don't think so. Maybe we
Okay.
do. Here's the thing. So I don't know exactly where we do and we don't sell because we just started last year with a UK importer called Tor Imports.
Hmm.
And I don't know whether Tor services just, I mean, they're UK, so you'd say Ireland's part of that, obviously. But I don't know whether they just do Scotland and England or whether they also ship to Ireland. So I don't know. I'd have to
Yeah, because
ask them.
Ireland's got a plain package rule too. You
Let me
know.
say this, if they're plain packaging, they're doing it. We're not doing it.
Oh no, the distributor
And,
ends up
and we're
doing
and
it.
we're and we're in a conversation with a Canadian distributor too, and we're like, we're not doing the plain packaging. I no offense to my Canadian friends, it's not my fault you live in a fucked up country politically. Okay, I don't have to jump through hoops because the reality is tons of Canadians smoke my cigars. They just buy them mail order and they take the chance of getting them shipped in, or they have people that mule them across the border. And the really hardcore cigar guys, which are my guys, okay, they're not going to buy locally in Canada anyways, right? Because the price is too stupid. They're definitely going to have a friend that's going to ship it to them as a gift or books or something, So for the typical Dunbarton consumer, um, it's like just so I can say I sell cigars in Canada. Okay, so what? It
I
doesn't mean anything to me.
I ship cigars to a friend of mine in Canada, and I make sure that when I send it out, I specifically say on the labeling and everything that it contains cigars because I don't want, I said he said just say that I'll pay the duty if they. They never ask him for duty. It's just, and it says cigars on the thing.
Which
That's
is
the
the reality. It's the same game that I played when look, I used to be a huge smoker of Habanos, right? And I used to buy them overseas and I would have them shipped to me. And one out of every 50 packages or so
they
would
got
get
open.
snagged by customs and then they would get confiscated. But the other 49 wouldn't. You know what I mean? It's the
Right.
same thing with Canada. Canada, yeah, they're gonna catch some and they're gonna charge you the tax. And that's the thing. The guy that's a Canadian smoker, if he doesn't live right across the border, because the vast majority of Canadian smokers, they do live right across the border.
Yeah.
Okay. Canada's a massive country with very little population. Once you get, a
Yeah.
couple hundred miles away
You
from the
don't go
border,
north. There's nothing there.
right?
It's
So
tundra.
most of those people, they cross the border and buy them themselves and bring them into the country,
Right.
right? They're allowed to bring like 50 or 100 if they've been out of the country 2 days or something. But I don't know the exact rules, so don't quote me on that. But most of them, they just take their chances with the postal service, regular airmail, and the Canadian government's going to catch one out of every so many, let's say 40, and they're going to send you the tax bill, which would have been the tax bill that you would have had to pay had you bought them in Canada anyways in the plain packaging. And the other problem you have is in all of these international markets, no matter where you are, they all have a very limited selection. Okay, because of the way it works is you're not dealing with retailers directly, you're dealing with a distributor, and distributors only want to buy things that they can move large volumes of. So like in Japan, we're in Japan. Two brands, Sobremesa, Sin Compromiso. And in each of them, there's like just two sizes. Two sizes of Sobremesa, maybe three, two or three sizes of Sin Compromiso. That's
They
the
don't. They
entire
don't smoke big cigars there anyway in Japan.
that's the entire
Right.
Dunbarton portfolio in Japan. Now, when they buy, they literally buy hundreds of boxes, right? They buy, okay, 100 boxes Brule Toro, 100 boxes Sobremesa El Americano, 100 boxes, that's the way they purchase. It's much different for them. They'll buy once a year, twice a year, and it's a much different scenario. And the other thing too is they also then have to, as whoever the distributor is, they have to go out and then sell those to the retailers. And these retail shops in all of these foreign countries, with very few exceptions. There's a few places in Germany that have amazing cigar stores, but most of these cigar stores, they have like 40, 50, 100 facings. I mean, if you go to a foreign store and they have like 200 facings, a facing is an open box on display, something that you can buy cigars from. That's like just like, are you kidding me? Whereas in America, small shops have 300 facings.
Right.
Typical shops have 600 facings. Big shops will have, 800, 900 facings. It's just such a different game internationally compared to domestically for us. So I don't focus on international. Now, international sales are doing great. We're growing in it. I'm happy for it. It's nice, but it's not an area that just not an area I focus on. It's just kind of like if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I don't give a fuck that I'm not in wherever Abu Dhabi or it just doesn't matter to me. It doesn't make my dick hard to say that, oh yeah, I'm in Dubai and the such and such.
Now, how do they? So, do you at least make one trip a year? Do a
Hell
kind
no,
of.
I don't do anything. That's the other
You don't do
problem.
any of that. So you don't.
No,
You don't. Your face in a Japan market, for instance. And I know. Yeah, I've been to Japan. I lived in Japan.
I'll
I've
tell
been
you
to
where
shops in Japan,
here's the
and
thing.
they don't do these things that we do
But here's the
with
thing: the
these events.
hardcore cigar consumers that live in these other countries, they watch all these same podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
So they rely on the American media, and that's where they get their cigar information from. And that's the reason why I think we're in like 27 or 30 countries at this point. It's crazy. And
Wow.
all of that is because of consumers forcing their distributor, talking to the retailer who then talks to the distributor who's the importer to eventually bring the brand in. It's entirely consumer driven to get these brands, at least for a company like us. Now, look, when you're Davidoff and your STG and your Altadis and your Swisher / Drew Estate, it's a market. There's a strategy. You know what I mean? But for us, no, it's whatever gravy comes. Thank you. We appreciate the gravy, but we're not giving you any discounts and we're not doing any support for you. and we're giving you nothing because you can't give them free cigars, can't give them swag. You can't do it. It's just not possible. I mean, the state of New Hampshire is literally worth more than most of the EU. So one crummy state in America is worth more than an entire European continent, when it comes to volume.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's just I know my international friends don't like hearing it. I don't know what to tell you, man. It's a question of the mechanics of things.
Well, just get you
Yeah.
get them smoking more cigars. Do you see the numbers growing, not just for you, but overall
Yes,
and
they are,
international?
because what's happened is there's been a general shift away from Habanos for a
Right.
wide variety of reasons.
Can't
There's
get
the
them.
can't
They
get
go in
them. The price got
China.
crazy. Also,
Quality's gone down.
quality's gone down. Also, there's no excitement. So if you're a younger, new to the hobby cigar consumer, I mean, all the excitement's on our end in the New World segment. I mean,
Mhm.
when was the last time Cuba launched a new brand? Line extension with Cohiba Bahiki. That was over 10 years ago, right? Before that, it was San Cristobal and Vegas Robana. That was like 1998. I mean,
Yeah.
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 Whereas we have a new brand every Tuesday. Who am I kidding? We have 8 new brands every Tuesday. So I mean, so all the all the development and all the unique tobaccos and all that stuff is all coming out of the New World makers and not coming out of Habanos. And Habanos is, I read something recently that said they're down to like 40 million units a year in production, which is just,
In the Cubans,
that's crazy. 40 million units.
I
I'm gonna
understand
do. I'm
part
gonna
of
do
that
over. I'm
is
gonna do what
people.
Dunbarton Tobacco Trust is gonna do over 2 million cigars next year. I mean, to think that all of Habanos is down to 40 million units, that's insanity to me.
But I understand they've lost their rollers. They've gone to Nicaragua and such as these demand keeps growing there. Um, they get paid better there than I believe
They
than they're
paid
getting
better
paid in
everywhere
Cuba.
but Cuba. That's the funny part.
Yeah.
Cuban prices are the highest, but it's actually the cheapest country to produce cigars in.
Yeah.
Now, it's artificially cheaper because of the whole way the
Mhm.
political
Of
economic
course.
situation is. I mean, it's essentially it's kind of like it's a false economy, Cuba. It's been a false economy now for decades. So
For a half a century.
yeah, but it is kind of funny that for the consumer, Cuban cigars have always cost so much more compared to what these importers were paying
Well,
for the cigars.
they've cost in the most recent decade and within the decade, in the most recent 5 years, they've gone out of sight. And they did this ridiculous price increase.
Yeah,
Okay. Ridiculous. It's almost like
but think
you
about
don't
it.
want anybody buying your cigars. Is that maybe
If
that? I
you,
mean,
so at the height of the boom, when things were crazy, they were doing like at one point they did. I don't remember the exact number, but so don't quote me on this, but it was well over 120 million units a year. And then they kind of went back to like about 70 to 80 million units a year. If they're only capable of producing 40 million units a year, in order to get the same money or more, what choice do you have but to dramatically raise the prices? So, in order for them to remain revenue positive, they are basically forced to charge these new prices because they only have so many of them.
yeah, but
And
that's
the price
eventually catches up on you because now people are going to buy even less because and then when do you stop raising to get revenue neutral, or do you get the realization that there's another part
I
of the
would look.
equation you're not
I'm not
focused on?
arguing with you, Jamie. I think I
I
think
know. I'm just saying.
I think Habanos has made a terrible decision. I think that the price increases were too radical, too quick. But the bigger problem than the price increase is the distribution shift of no longer distributing to all of their international partners and now making it almost entirely an Asian centric distribution
Yeah, but
strategy.
they sold part of that the whole Habanos was the Chinese are a
Yeah,
partner in it
the
now.
red Chinese investor group owns
Yeah,
Habanos. That's
yeah.
the way it is.
And that's
But
why they did this.
I understand that they want to maximize the profit. I understand it. But it's a bad long-term strategy because now what you have is you now have all of these retailers and purveyors worldwide that were carrying your water, even though your cigars were subpar, still telling their consumers that these are the best. Now basically set up to where they're just going to motherfuck you 2 ways to Tuesday because they can't even sell it anymore.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, you basically have set up a scenario where you have all the people that were your best, they were your cheerleaders for the last 4+ decades. And you've basically taken them out of the equation and said, no, you not even willing to pay the higher price. We're still not going to send them to you. Okay. You just set this this infrastructure of people that are just basically going to motherfuck you to everybody that walks through their door. It's
Right.
insanity. I don't understand the logic of what they're doing. But guess what? It's a communist country. It's owned by communists. The communist manufacturer, communist distributor, communist owners, communist. I don't know why I should be surprised. It's it's a debacle and it's stupid. And the bad part is if they don't change direction really quickly, it's going to cause irreparable damage that they're not going to recover from. They're basically squandering almost a century of goodwill in the matter
Oh,
of just a couple decades, in just a generation's time. It's insanity to me. I just can't get it.
with that, we'll let you take a breath. I'm going to do the second advertising segment here to finish paying the bills, and when we come back, let's talk a little bit about some things that are new. Let's talk a little bit about your excitement coming up for Great Smoke, PCA, and I don't have one of your DTTs yet, EXs, but it was supposed to be here today. So we'll talk a little bit about that and your excitement
Sure.
always to make that. So with that, let's go do a quick segment here.
And today's show is brought to you by Bocock Brothers Cigars, a new and active brand founded by two Honduran brothers, Bryant and Douglas Bocock. The brand zeroes in on those folks that are looking for easy to smoke cigars inspired by unusual circumstances. Very importantly named after their very interesting and imitable last name, Bocock. Right now, Bocock Brothers is featuring their signature edition, made at the A.J. Fernandez factory in Esteli, Nicaragua. It features an Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper, a Nicaraguan Habano binder, and a Nicaraguan filler. Available in 3 popular formats, a Robusto, a Toro, and a Gordo. You can check out Bocock Brothers Cigars at www.bocockbrothers.com. And today's show is brought to you by Platinum Nova Cigars. Platinum Nova is a family owned and operated premium cigar company. Only the highest vintage tobacco and the most skilled hand workmanship go into the making of each Platinum Nova cigar. This results in a timeless blend of art and craftsmanship. The Nova brand and the family's work are a tribute and an honor to their grandfather to always remember him and his infinite passion for the finest cigars. Their love for cigars started with their grandfather, a dedicated master blender and entrepreneur in the cigar industry. So the next time you're looking for that exquisite cigar experience, pick up a Platinum Nova. You could check them out at Platinum Nova Cigars, www.novacigar.com, and on their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter channels. This episode of Taking It to the Nub is sponsored by the Box Press Cigar app, the ultimate cigar smoking experience. With Box Pressed, you can easily catalog cigars with your own virtual humidor, quickly rate and record notes for any cigar using the Smoke Session feature, receive intelligent cigar recommendations based on your personal taste profile, and access exclusive discounts from top cigar brands. You can even shop your favorite cigars directly in the app, then automatically sync the order to your virtual humidor, plus so much more. Download Box Press today by typing bxpr.sd/install into any web browser and discover the world of cigars like never before. That's bxpr.sd/install. And today's show is brought to you by All Saints Cigars, a company founded in 2019 and headed up by industry veteran Mickey Pegg and his two friends, Martin Corboy, a successful restaurateur, and Frank Leo, an Air Force Academy graduate military veteran. As Mickey explains it, they were all sitting down, talking and smoking cigars, and finally they decided that they would do this thing together. It was time. Mickey said, I decided if I'm going to work hard at it, it should be something I love. Besides, a tough day with a cigar is better than a great day doing anything else. Soon after, they began the process of launching All Saints Cigars, jokingly referring to themselves as the Holy Trinity, St. Michael, St. Martin, and St. Francis. They chose for their logo the cross of St. James, the patron saint of Nicaragua, the country where their cigars would be produced. You can check out All Saints Cigars at www.allsaintscigars.com.
All right. Thank all our sponsors, including you, Steve. Thank you. Without you guys, this show and running this operation gets a little harder. One thing before we get into some new thoughts on your end. When I looked at, even when I looked at my list, the one thing I noticed this year when I put out some analytics this time. I found that of the top cigars that I had out, a vast majority of them were Ecuadorian Habano wrappers.
Yeah.
And if you took all the other varietals of leaf from Ecuador, a much larger number. And then, of course, San Andreas was there, but it was a distant second. What is your view on two things? One, where are we going with wrapper going forward? And what's going to be happening, do you think, with Ecuador now that they've had all these floods and these issues with the fields and stuff as far as supply goes?
Look, Ecuador is not, obviously we've had the ecological impact, right, of the weather and whatnot, but Ecuador's been a bit on the bubble for the last 10 years politically too. So Ecuador's a risky country. Look, there's no way to ever. The one thing that is nice is that most countries, even when they're in political turmoil, have come to the realization that they need cash. So they try not to upset the goose that's laying the golden egg. So even though things politically have not been the most stable in Ecuador, they still love to export products in which they bring in dollars for. Um, so, I mean, look, these shortages are normal for us. We weather these. There's always bad crop cycles. We every 3 years we get a bad Connecticut crop cycle for broadleaf. We typically get a bad. We don't tend to get bad San Andreas crop cycles, but you have very limited growers in San Andreas Tuxtla, so there's only so much that's available to even be purchased. I mean, the market will always, the manufacturers will always change to something else out of necessity. And you're going to see, I mean, you've seen this transition with more people making Pennsylvania seed leaf, which they call, Pennsylvania broadleaf, but it isn't broadleaf. It's really thin, but it's part of the broadleaf family. So I guess that's the reason why. But you see companies transitioning to that. You've seen a lot of companies transition to more Mexican because they can't get the broadleaf that they'd like to get. The problem with the Ecuador Habano is it's really hard to replace because the Habano from Ecuador just burns better. It combusts better. It ferments better. It's easier to work. It has more elasticity. And the flavor is a little gentler. It's not as sharp and as spicy as the Habano that we grow in Nicaragua. Now, look, if you're somebody that really likes those super spicy style smokes, then okay. But the vast majority of consumers don't. They'd much rather have a bit more dialed back kind of experience that you get out of Ecuador Habano. It has enough character that it adds interest to the cigar, but it also allows for the filler materials to be part of the blending process, the experience. So I think it's a really hard wrapper for us to really get away from. I mean, it's a big, obviously I use quite a bit of it. Fuente uses quite, all of us do. Who am I kidding? It's a big ingredient for many of us. And it's not just the Ecuador Habano, but it's also the Ecuador Connecticut, because we all are very reliant on Ecuador, Connecticut at this point. I mean, Connecticut is like, just A, it's egregiously expensive, and B, the amount of good quality in the marketplace just simply doesn't exist. You can't build the brand around Connecticut of any sort of sizable numbers. And I would argue it doesn't taste as good. I find it to be more grassy, it's more hay-like, it's thinner, so for me it doesn't even have appeal. But you will see you'll see more and more of this broadleaf seed that's been grown in Nicaragua coming to fruition. Um, I've been experimenting with it for the last 4 years. I've actually commissioned 2 test crops of it already. I haven't felt like it's ready for prime time, but that doesn't mean that somebody else won't, or that they won't have a blend that really works well with it. Same thing. Look, I'm not a fan of Arapiaca. Arapiaca just doesn't work for
It's
me.
that's
Uh,
that's one you have to have a palate for.
yeah, I mean, it's just I find it too harsh. I find it too sharp. I find it
Mhm.
too biting. So for me, Arapiaca is not really an option. Now, does that mean I'll never make an Arapiaca cigar? No, it doesn't mean that. But it also means that if I don't have to, I won't. But if the necessity comes to be that, hey, we've got Nicaraguan broadleaf and we've got Arapiaca from Brazil and you got Pennsylvania seedleaf from Lancaster. These are the 3 things that are readily available in the marketplace for you to work with. Then yeah, guess what? I'm going to figure out some blends that are going to help to make those wrappers into what I consider to be good and worthy cigars. So I mean, I think but this is the challenge we've always gone through as an industry, is these material interruptions. So I feel I I'm always uneasy about it because it's always uneasy.
Yeah. Mm.
It's the way it always has been. There's no
You
guarantee.
you
It's
got to
always,
work with what's in your cabinet at
I
that
mean,
moment.
it's an agricultural product of which there's no guarantees on, between weather, pests, and disease. And then it's also regretfully to the whims of the political situation, because oftentimes these things are grown in countries like, look, there's a material that I use at Mike Rita Black that was a very common material in the late 80s, early 90s, that went out of existence because the drug cartels took over northern Honduras, and they actually had to close the farm because of the drug cartels, and they stopped growing the seed. And so
Mm.
here was a very common ingredient that basically became a non-existent ingredient until I did a reprisal crop in southern Honduras. But that requires an investment to do that. It wasn't like there was a demand for, because consumers didn't know anything about this seed.
Right.
They didn't care, right? For me, it was like, hey, this is something cool I can do as a small company. Let me go ahead and let's do this. So it works for me as an item to make the story and to provide something unique and a little different. But major manufacturers, no, they're not going to do that. Or they're going to
So
do
let
it for
me
particular projects, they'll do it.
so let me ask you this question when it comes to different leaf that you may or may not want to use. And I'm going to say this jokingly, okay?
Okay.
So understand this is a jokingly made statement. When are you going to create a sun-grown Saka?
Sun-grown Saka.
In other words,
Yeah,
why don't you use sun-grown leaf?
I do have some sun-grown on some things.
What the hell is sun-grown, Steve?
Well, I
Isn't
mean,
all leaf sun-grown unless it's under the shade?
yeah, I guess. Well, so like Ecuador Habano is sun grown, but we
Ex-
don't really but we don't really consider it sun grown because of the cloud cover. So like when you talk about sun grown, I almost always think of like Nicaraguan sun grown criollos, like C98s and
But they're
H2000.
grown in the sun,
Yeah, of
right?
course.
So the vast majority of tobacco is grown in the sun.
Yeah, broadleaf is sun grown, right?
It's right. So we come up with this term somehow in the it started back with virgin sun grown, right? At Ashton,
But you
right?
understand, again, the reason they called it virgin sun grown was because it wasn't grown under shade, but they called it virgin because of the cloud cover. So the sun had a hard time penetrating the clouds. So as disgusting as this story is, it was like penetrating the hymen of a virgin for the sun to reach the tobacco. Hence, it's virgin sun grown is where this terminology comes from.
I just started seeing it. It came to me when I, doing all of
It's like this, but whenever,
these.
but whenever anything captures the consumer's minds, like media
Right.
tiempo is like one of the most bullshit things I've ever heard of. I mean, medio tiempo just means time and a half. It means the last priming on the plant, instead of in the normal cycle of picking it 5 to 7 days after the previous priming, you pick it 10 to 14 days later, or you pick it, 10 to 12 days later. It's time and a half of what normally would be.
Well,
So it's
at least that I could say you have time where there's some more nutrients coming into the leaf that the upper leaves aren't
like
taken
what? You
from
have
it.
you have 10 more days on
Yeah,
the plant. That's what you have. But
yeah,
yet
but
it gets talked about in this like super romanticized, like it makes all the but the reason why is because that was the sales pitch that Habanos put together for Mahiki. And Mahiki was an absolute home run when they released it. And it was medio tiempo. And all of a sudden, everybody's now medio tiempo, medio tiempo, medio tiempo.
it's just
So this is the way it is in our industry. Like I'll tell you something else. I was the guy that started calling Mexican tobacco San Andres Negro. Nobody called it San Andres Negro. I am the person who in the public consciousness, every manufacturer that refers to it now, if you like go back to the 90s, I'm the very first guy that started referring it to it that way. Because everyone called it Mexican, Mexican, Mexican. And it was just such a negative connotation for Mexican cigars and Mexican tobacco, which wasn't really fair because this is really a great tobacco that happens to be grown in Mexico. And so I started like, okay, I'm just gonna start branding it as San Andreas Negro. How much more romantic is San Andreas Negro than Mexican? And San Andreas Negro is what they actually call it, right? So why don't we call it what they call it? And bing, bam, boom. Now everybody calls it San Andreas Negro, or they call it San Andreas Tuxtla, or they call it Tuxtla whatever. I mean, these words just have a way of they have a way of just becoming, and it's almost always derived from marketing, is where it comes from.
well, there's still a confusion even in the consumer force, right? I mean, when I talk I was talking to some folks the other week about sun-grown tobacco, and there was an interesting comment that says, "Yeah, well, that's sun-grown. It's that kind of like dark, medium to dark tan wrapper." And I said, "The
Oh,
medium
it's
dark
not at
tan
all.
has nothing to do with sun-grown. It has to
Nothing at
do with
all.
fermentation." Okay.
But look,
No,
typically
and
those shade-grown tobaccos ferment lighter, and tobaccos that are grown not in shade in the sun typically do ferment darker. So there
well,
is some,
because you
there
could
is some
ferment them
there is some
longer.
reality to that.
You could ferment them longer because aren't they generally a
You have
thicker
to ferment
leaf?
them longer because they're thicker, they're heavier in
They're
texture.
right,
You
and they
can't
could
you can't
take
you
more
can't
heat. They
ferment
could
them
take
as
the heat. They could
right.
take
We
all
have
of
to
that.
ferment them at a higher temperature for longer periods of time. Yeah, but
Thank you.
there's all sorts of these generalities, but almost all of these words and phrases, they almost always come from us marketing weenies. That's where they originate. I
Yeah,
mean, it's like because again, they're all brown and round. You light them
exactly.
all on fire. I mean, you're trying to differentiate your product from somebody else's product. And whenever anything gets any sort of like legs to it, it then becomes like all of a sudden the industry grabs like, look, Liga Privada, until there was Liga Privada, there was not an expensive Connecticut broadleaf cigar in the marketplace. Not a single manufacturer or brand or company thought that consumers would pay real money for Connecticut broadleaf because it was always viewed as a working class cigar It was always viewed as a lower end cigar. The wrappers were really rough. They were always kind of ugly, a little bit mottled, really thick veins. Everything about it was the antithesis of what a Cuban cigar looked like and what the Dominican cigars were being made to copy Cuban cigars looked like. So nobody thought that you could sell Connecticut broadleaf for the money that you could sell it for. But it wasn't true. It just needed to be properly fermented. It needed to be properly worked. It needed to be grown and cultivated a little better. I mean, in the end, it's still an uglier wrapper. There's no ways around it, but it's also a very flavorful wrapper.
There's nothing wrong with ugly.
It's got an earthiness to it. But until we launched Liga Privada at Drew Estate, the concept of a $10 Connecticut broadleaf cigar, it was like an anachronism. It was not even possible. And now look at it. Here we are. What is it? When did we launch Liga? 2007-ish. We're 16 years in the future. And for many companies, broadleaf is like their very top tier best product that they have in their portfolio. It's right there, right alongside it. But that's because Drew Estate with Liga set a trend.
Right.
They don't want to use the word Liga. Right? Nobody used that word. Liga is a very common word. We use it all the time in the factory. But that word enters the lexicon because of the naming of a brand for the average consumer. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, these things have they have a life of their own. And when any manufacturer or any other brand owner sees something successful, they're just going to copy it, and we're going to end up with Liga this and Media Tiempo that and Sun Grown whatever and yada yada yada. And we're off to the races.
So you got a very busy schedule in front of you, I imagine, between now and March. All right.
Yes,
you've got Smoke In, the Great Smoke coming up. You've got PCA.
So I got Puro Sabor in about a week.
Puro Sabor. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's true.
I got to Puro Sabor. And then I have the launch of the famous 80th with Famous on the 2nd of February. So I come back from Nicaragua, and the very next day I have to be in Pennsylvania. It's gonna be a miserable day. And then you have and then of course we have TGS, the Great Smoke, with our friends at Smoke In.
You sold out all of those DTTEXs, right?
Yeah, he sold them all out.
How many did you make of those again?
400.
400 packs?
Yeah, I wanted to only make 300, but he wanted me to make 400. I guess he was right.
Probably could have made 500 and they would have sold.
You never know. It's a crapshoot. I think that, I mean, one of the things that with the TGS exclusive is it's limited to just the TGS ticket holders.
Mm-hmm.
So you've already got a pool of what? 2,000 people? And it's not just 2,000. You've only got the TGS ticket holders who already have their tickets purchased.
That's correct.
Right. So they had to have had their ticket like 2 days ago for an event that's 2 months from now in order for them to, or I guess it's about 6 weeks from now at this point. So it's a very limited pool of people that you can possibly sell into. So I'm really surprised.
Now is that version got a different blend than the previous ones?
Yeah, so I always use, to make my life simpler with TGS, because so normally every year he switches the manufacturers for the TGS exclusives. He tries to spread the wealth around. But I've made one every single time 4 years 4 years straight now, because mine always sell out. So he kind of looks at mine as the anchor one. So it's really a pain in the ass to come up with something new and fresh every year. So what I decided to do, well, the first year was kind of caught me off guard. What I do is I have these blends that are just EX with a number. And what they are is they're blends that I use tobacco in that I haven't used before. Sometimes it's something that's in the marketplace that I just don't have any experience with, or it's something totally new or something totally off the wall, something fresh and unique. And those go into this just series of just running blends that I'm making to test all these new tobaccos. And they're just EX, and it's number 1, the number 2, the number 3. And I'm like somewhere in the 200s right now over the last 8 years. And then what I do is I select one of the ones that I thought was unique, that had merit. that I thought was worth smoking. Okay. Because a lot of times I don't have a lot of this tobacco. It was bought, one bale. You know what I mean? So it was small quantities of it. So there's no way to make them into a brand anyways. Now, sometimes some of these experimental blends turn into Sin Compromiso. They turn into Mi Querida Black because it has the unique Honduran seed in it. They had EX numbers on them originally, Mi Querida Black and Sin Compromiso. But I take some of those EX numbers and I use those for TGS. So it makes it much easier for me because then it's just a matter of me flipping through my notes and going, oh, 67 was interesting, 142 was interesting, 186 was interesting. Okay, let's remake 10 of each of those and let me try those again. Okay, you know what? The 86, that's the way we'll go. Now, so far, I did 38, 78, 127, and I don't even know what number this year is 153, I think.
153 or 152, 153, yeah.
I think it's 153. It doesn't mean that there won't be number 12.
Right.
I mean, the fact that it's just always gone up in numbers is one thing, but I could easily go back to one of the ones from earlier on. But it's a way for me to do it because it's a lot of work to try to make something worthwhile for an exclusive release. And this is a way where I can kind of mail it in because it's work that I just do as a common course of business and yet also give the consumer something that's actually interesting to smoke that I think is genuinely good. And you'll also see that I'm like the worst when it comes to the packaging. It literally has a factory printed band on it, like literally off a printer, white paper.
But
It
that's the Lord. That's
comes in
in
a
the
brown
Lord's.
paper bundle. I
That's
just
in.
don't have time to make. If I was the guy that, hey, it's every 4 years I get to make a TGS exclusive, okay, I can make something in a fancy package and
Yeah,
put
but
dragons on it.
there's a point where the packaging doesn't matter
But,
because
but
people are
there
gonna
is
buy
no
them
there's
regardless.
there's a circumstance where it doesn't matter the packaging
Right.
because it's an informed consumer that's buying it. They're
Mhm.
buying it based on a track record. They're buying it because they understand what they're buying. That's a much and it doesn't ever get displayed on a shelf. I don't have to convince the retailer to carry DT like. But I'll tell you right now, the 127, Abe asked me to make that one for his fine and rare room. So I made more 127s, and this one's going to come with a band that's got our DTT logo, and it says number 127 on the band. So that has to be more shelf friendly. Now it's not going to come in a box because he doesn't need a box because of the way he displays them in his fine and
In the
rare room.
vault, right?
But
Yeah.
in his vault, but it can't just have that little cheap paper factory band. You know what I mean? So but yeah, that's a case where packaging doesn't matter because it never ends up on anyone's shelf.
So now you're moving then from there you're gonna go. You have PCA because PCA is early this year
PCA
now.
is brutal this year.
I mean, is there anything new? Have you had time to work on anything
So,
for PCA, or is it
so,
gonna? Are you gonna surprise
so
us with something?
I'm not gonna surprise you with jack shit. So look, Wagashi was always intended to be a PCA release. So Wagashi will be our major PCA release next year.
Okay.
Okay. The only reason why Wagashi got used as a drop at Smokin' in November is because Red Meat Lovers went nationwide, which meant he lost his exclusive to everybody. So what I
Okay.
ended up doing was to fill that commercial gap for him and say, okay, I will have enough Wagashi that have enough age on them that they will be ready to go in November. So he ended up selling like 1,400 boxes of Wagashi, okay, in his November drop on that. But we'll make Wagashi available to the greater public. So that was to all of our accounts. We're adding a size of Sin Compromiso.
Okay.
We're adding a size to Omagog with a different blend.
A
We're
different blend.
Well,
Oh,
not really a different blend, but a different wrapper.
oh,
We're
well, that's a
gonna,
different blend.
yeah, we're it's the same blend but with a different wrapper. So what we're gonna do is it's called Bronze Back. It's a 5 by 48. and it's going to. So on a broadleaf plant, you have the sand leaves at the bottom that get discarded. You have the 1LSs, which almost always go to the machine made, the chew guys. You then have this weird area. It's called 2LS. And then most of what the cigar makers want are what we call mediums, and mediums go from the middle part of the plant to the top of the plant. And then sometimes we have darks, but darks are depending on the year because you need a really dry, sunny year to get darks. And so we only get darks like once every 2 or 3 crops, typically about once every 3 crops. It's only like the top 4 or 5 leaves of the plant. But most of the times we get just what we classify as mediums all the way up. So what the 2LSs are is they still have really great flavor, but they're lighter in color. They're more of a tannish reddish hue when you ferment them. They're not as sweet and they're not as earthy, but they're a bit more spicy. So it's kind of a spicier broadleaf, the 2LSs. And in fact, a brand that you will remember that used to use these regularly was the old Henry Clays. They used to come in the what we called the bundle press, where they because remember nobody thought broadleaf was for like real smokers back then.
Right.
They made this like really like cigar that they would pack wet in these bundles, so every cigar would be a little misshapen, right? Because they would dry and set up in
Kind
the
of like the Yaguas were.
yeah. So that had 2LS on it.
Okay.
So I'm gonna use we're gonna launch Umbagog Bronzeback with 2LS.
What is Bronzeback? What's that
Bronzeback is
reference?
a nickname for smallmouth bass.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of fits into the Umbagog theme. And so the consumers can identify it. It's the same band, but now the where the text is normally white, it'll be bronze.
Okay.
But basically,
Still kind of value priced.
yeah, it's still the same. It's still sub $10 Bronzeback.
Okay.
So we'll have Bronzeback by the Sin Compromiso Robusto. What else will we have? We may offer the unicorns again this year at the trade show. I don't know. We may offer the original unicorns in a nicer package because now that we made the fancy package for the black and the blue, I now kind of forced to make the nicer package for the original. You know, for everyone that says packaging doesn't matter, but we won't change the price on it because look, unicorns really should be about $118 now instead of $100 with inflation, but I don't care. Unicorns are not a money maker. I mean, 2,000 unicorns in the production of 1.8 million cigars. Unicorns are entirely a
And they end up the consumers end up collecting those. They have them in their humidors. They never
yeah.
open them. They
It's
never
it's,
smoke them.
it's, it's much more it's much more a brand affinity thing than a money
Mm-hmm.
maker. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's good for the retailers when they sell them, but for us as a company, they're inconsequential. Um, yeah, we might have a couple other things. I don't. The deadline is so short.
Yeah.
These are the things that I'm sure are going to be there, but there are no major brand releases. Oh, we're adding the holiday 2022 to the core, the Stillwell line. Holiday
Okay.
22 will be branded as aromatic number 22. Real original there, I know. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of nibbling around the edges for the most part. Wagashi's going to be the big thing, which for a lot of people that watch this program, they're kind of like, well, I already saw that. But the reality is most people haven't, you know.
Mm.
So, but look, we're just shipping Popetta now. I mean, we just started shipping Krakatoa, late last year, Red Meat Lovers late last year. These are still like brand new brands, and there's just I don't have the capacity to add anything grand or big at the moment. And not only that, I don't really have the need. I mean, you see how these top lists are. I already step on my own dick all the time, right? 'Cause I have so many different things
There's plenty
that
there for people to choose from, like you
yeah.
say. And I
So
mean, this industry is always like, what's new, what's new, and sometimes doesn't have to be. The portfolio stands by
I'll be
itself.
very interested to see what everybody else does. I don't know how there can be a lot new. I mean, this cycle is so short.
I know. I mean, they just finished unless they I mean, did you all? I try to remember when when the intelligence came out that they were going to do it in March when they announced that. Did they announce it before PCA last year or after PCA? I don't
They
recall. I
announced
have to
it
go back.
publicly but it had been leaked about a month earlier.
All right, so you had 1 extra
But
month,
March
but still,
sucks.
it
Look, July
does.
sucked, March sucked. Perfect world would be May. May is the ideal time. Obviously, they're having problems getting convention space in May. I get it.
Yeah.
The year after this, it's April. So April will be better than March. You know,
Yeah, April in New Orleans probably not as bad as July was in New Orleans.
yeah, I mean, but look, but the biggest problem is you come off the one trade show in the end of July, and now to go into another one just 9 months later. It's just we're rushing like madmen to do the 12-month to 12-month cycle. To
Right.
do the 12-month to 9-month cycle, yeah, it's insane.
Now,
So
have you on all these, go back to these lists for a second, of all these lists, and I'm sure you watch them as they come out. Um, and you said you didn't smoke the Millennial, for instance, but have you smoked others on that list? What piqued your interest outside of your own brand that made
this is
you
where I end
start
up
a
looking like a
list?
total douchebag. I am so in my own bubble right now. I have too many blends, too many brands.
Okay.
I can't keep up. I mean, I smoked Matapa because I was curious. You know, I smoked Night Commander because my friend Nick. I smoked
Right.
the Perdomo 30th because I was curious. You know, like certain like high, like super high profile stuff. I tried, but for the most part, no, man, I'm swamped, man.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm just swamped. I have way more smoking than I could possibly ever handle. Too much smoking. I mean, because the thing is, you think about all the Halligans of the world and the Don Derma Golden Childs and all of these, you know, individual Barbara Amarillo reissue and Feral 100 reissue, and look, we got Frog Juice coming out sometime again this year, and all the exclusives I did last year. I think I'm going to get stuck doing them all again this year, and there's going to be two more on top of that. I'm doing ones for my friends at Harrisburg. I mean, I already mentioned I'm doing the famous 80th. I'm in the middle of working on a whole brand for my friends at Santa Clara. I got an exclusive that I owe Tim Swanson at Cigars Daily. I got so many projects, man.
Wow.
So there's not enough smoking time. There's just
Just to
too
sit back and
much work
enjoy
smoking.
and yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much work smoking. It just, just like little things, you get things like we got the factory screwed up. I got 80 stupid 10 count bundles of Don Dharma that they failed to press. And
Ow.
it's like, really? How did this happen? How did you make these 800 cigars wrong? You know what I mean? But they do it. They do it all the time. They make mistakes. We discovered a mistake they made on Red Meat Lovers the other day. It's
Well,
like,
that was like the guys. I had the guys from Black. I had Jonas on from Blackbird a couple of weeks ago, and he told me the story in his factory where um, the rollers screwed up the recipe, and they rolled all these cigars, and then when the blender came in to smoke them,
yeah,
he was like, this is not the blend."
right.
But then they passed them around to people and said, it's actually a good blend. Whatever they did ended up being good.
Yeah,
So they ended up recovering by keeping the cigars, and they created a new brand out of it called the Glitch. So sometimes you got to roll with this stuff and say, well, you got these things. Now what do you do with it? Right? I mean, how do you make money on, like you said, how do you just get out there and promote something that was an error and it turned out to be okay?
yeah. Look, it happens, but it's annoying, and there's so much going on because it's not like we make more sober bases today than we ever had. We're making way more Brulee. We're making way more Mickey Rita Blue and Mickey Rita Red. Sin Compromiso is not a shrinking brand; it's a growing brand. So you got to stay on top of all of those The stuff that, for you guys, you look at it and go, oh, well, yeah, that's always been around, but you're always constantly having to tweak it, adjust it, check it, make sure it's right, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. Hey, the tobacco's a little heavier this year. What are we going to do to fix that? Oh, this time it's a little spicier, it's a little sweeter. Okay, we need to adjust the blend because in the end, the consumer wants the experience that they're expecting when they smoke the
Right.
cigar. Right? They don't care that we should be tweaking the blends. Because if you
Yeah,
don't
I mean
tweak the
that's got
blend,
to be the hardest
if you
part.
don't tweak the blend, it ends up being very inconsistent. So you're
Right.
constantly having to. So by having so many products in the marketplace, it is so much work to keep all of these projects, consistent and on track and on target, and simultaneously also growing their production.
Right.
So I mean,
It's like I take my hat off to a company like Fuente. When I go, I've always been a fan of the short story.
right?
And honestly, I should just smoke the Hemingway and not the short story because the end result is I end up smoking two short stories, right? But it's always been consistent since day one. And that cigar's been around for what, 30 plus years?
Yeah, since the 80s.
Same cigar, same
Yeah,
flavor,
but it
same
isn't.
thing.
It's a totally different cigar, but they have constantly changed it to make it the same cigar experience for you.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, the wrapper is still the Cameroon wrapper,
Right.
right? But these materials have come and changed over the
Sure they
years.
have.
Okay. And even when you're using the identical materials from the identical farms, they're still not the same. And they're not
Of course
just
not.
different from crop to crop, they're sometimes different from bale to bale. So you're constantly micro tweaking. And that's the part that is so hard to stay on top of. And I just, and the other thing that makes it a little really, it is a good thing for Dunbarton and a bad thing. It's not like we have like one or two winners. Like if it was just Sober Mesa Brulee and BK Rita Blue, and all the other stuff was just kind of like, hey, we released it, it's new, it sells well for a year, and then it kind of dies and goes away. And you just focus on this is what you have to focus on. It's much, much easier. But
Right.
we don't have that. Everything is growing, everything is doing well, everything is so. It's like you can't even like say, oh well, I'm gonna let that be cruise control. I'm gonna put my attention into these two or three particular things because these are the money makers for the company. We don't have anything that's the money maker for the company. It's like everything is just this is 12% of our business, this is 14% of our business, this is 11% of our business, this is 16% of our business. It's a really weird portfolio. And I mean, you would and honestly, it's a good portfolio. It's nice to have that kind of diversification. But
You
at the same
have,
time, it's a lot of work to stay on top of.
yeah.
And then you throw in the fact that I seem to make a fucking exclusive like every fucking time. And it's just like, good God.
All right, so we're coming up well beyond the hour, into the hour and a half mark. Just curiosity question. You following college football this year?
No, not at all.
Not at all. Okay. Yeah, everybody's
I'm not even
talking about
following. I'm not even following football this year.
yeah, well, I
I've
haven't
been,
followed
I've
NFL at
just, I
all.
haven't had time. I mean, I know there's some issue with Alabama because there always is an issue with Alabama. I know there's an issue with Florida. Something about the way that went. I hear inklings, but I don't really know the particulars.
I guess the big deal right now is national championship. We'll see if Michigan can pull it off. All the Michigan fans out there, I wish you luck. It'll be fun. That'll probably be a game I'll watch. But
Yeah, I'll probably watch it too, but I don't know why. I've never been invested in college football. But the only sport I used to be a really heavy NBA guy. Huh, that's a pun, isn't it? Heavy.
I was gonna say,
But anyways, I don't know. I don't know. I just the NBA today just doesn't capture my imagination. Just the style of play, I just don't find it as interesting as I did
oh,
in the 70s and 80s and early 90s.
when they changed
Uh,
the shorts from the short shorts to the baggy shorts.
I don't think it was the uniform change. I think it's the constant 3-point play, lack of defense, lack of strategy. It just doesn't feel like the same game to me.
Hmm.
And the other thing I don't like about it is just the fact that if the owner's willing to pony up the money, you could just basically build a dream team, right?
It's
So,
like that. It's like that in most sports, other than probably football,
and that's one of the
right?
reasons why I like NFL football is because between the salary cap and the way the draft works and all of that, it's a much more even playing field
Right.
for each of the teams. So, so I kind of fell in love with the NBA, and really NFL has been the only thing. And even that, I just haven't had the time to follow the way I normally do. I mean, I know
Me
my
too.
team sucks. My team has sucked for a few years now, but
Well, they've got a lot of work to do.
yeah, but like, so I mean, I haven't watched. I think I watched one game live this year. I just pretty much just put it on the. I don't even know what do you call it when you record something on streaming service? We used to call it taping, and then I called it DVRing. I don't even know what to call when I just like record it off a
Remember,
stream.
it used to be called TiVo, or whatever it was. Remember, you used to have a
Oh yeah,
TiVo
TiVo,
box or
sure.
whatever. That was that
But
one. I don't know.
but basically, I record the stream. It's in the cloud, and then I'll watch the game, and I'll reduce watching the Patriots suck to about an hour and 15 minutes of pain because I'll fast forward through the commercials and the timeouts and most of the replays, and just try to limit my exposure to the ugliness.
Oh man, yeah, it's painful to watch the Patriots.
Yeah, it's just awful.
But
Defense is amazing.
they had their heyday. They
Yeah.
did their thing.
Oh,
Brady.
we all knew as fans that it was going to suck. We just didn't realize it was going to suck this bad.
It's all about, like you say, it's all about getting the right players to gel together, and you got to have a quarterback that's a true leader of a team that can really pull that team together.
Yeah.
And then of course you got to have the people that can catch the damn ball when, nothing pisses me off in football than when the quarterback throws the perfect pass right to the numbers and the
Yeah.
guy can't handle the ball.
Yeah.
And that's the play. He knows the play, right?
And that's his job is to catch the
His
fucking ball.
ball. Yeah, exactly. You're getting paid
I
million
don't
dollars
expect
to catch
everyone
the
to
ball.
stretch out and do the Odell Beckham thing. But yes,
Right.
when somebody hits you in the move on the numbers and you manage to flub the ball, you're like, really? Come on.
Right.
That's crazy.
That's the thing with, when you watch the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm kind of moved to the Chiefs a little because I follow quarterbacks and I like Mahomes, but I understand his frustrations when he gets on the sideline because
Yeah.
these guys are dropping balls. It's like, what are you doing? I'm doing my job. Do
Right.
your job, okay? Or go talk to the general managers and get these guys off the team. Go find me new people.
But no, I haven't really. The last 3 years have been nothing but work for me, Jimmy.
Yeah, that's fair enough. The last 40 plus years have been work for me, and suddenly it's going to disappear. So
Say
it's
la
going to
vie.
be it's going to be happy. I practiced 3 weeks of retirement. The last 3 weeks of the year, I took off. I actually go to work on Monday. Have to spend 3 weeks probably writing emails to everybody I've ever known in my company for the next 3 weeks, thanking them for their camaraderie and all of this. They don't, because I can't get involved in anything. So it's like, thank you, and then bye. We'll have a virtual giveaway. They'll see, like, okay, we'll have a big party up virtually.
There a gold watch in your future? They give you a gold watch?
No, actually, they don't. The Grumman Corporation used to do that. We used to work for, but no, what they did is it's kind
Probably
of, yeah,
a gold watch now is like 30 to 40K. Gold watch
yeah.
is no
They
gold
gave
watch
me,
is like
but
real money.
but technically they did give me a buyout. So
Ah,
I'm not gonna complain because
go buy your own watch, damn it.
I was gonna retire at 65, but I had just turned 64, and they came out and said they're gonna do a buyout, which basically gives me all the money I need to live on this year, and a little bit. Plus, they pay all my health care costs, all the premiums and everything for the Cobra. They pay all of that until I'm 65.
Huh.
So at my age, it was a perfect. I have other colleagues that are like slightly younger than me, 62, 61. And a lot of some of them didn't take because they what do you do? I mean, it's just, so you got a year's worth of salary, let's say, and then what do you do? Right. So you got to find something. You got to still go back out to work. Me, it's like, nope, I was going to do it anyway. You just advance my calendar by 1 year, and
Right.
and for like a couple of months last year after I accepted it, I was like, damn, man, now I got to accelerate a lot of things in my life, readjust a lot of stuff, because make sure the financials are right, everything's properly invested, some readjustments of accounts, because I'm no longer going to be putting money into a 401 and an IRA and all of that. So you're kind of like, okay, you know, that old term, the old people like me on fixed income. I told my wife, I said, we're on fixed income. So you either, if you want that kitchen, you better start having your marketing company make more money, because it's on you. It's not on me. My job is to wake up at 10:30 in the morning. I've been training my dog. My dog gets up at 7 to go out, comes back
Right.
in, and usually jumps back on the bed, goes to sleep. And at 8:30, he gets up again because he wants to eat. That's his first meal of the day. And that's
Right.
like clockwork with him. So the last 3 weeks, I've been breaking this dog's habit, which is hard at 9 years old, 10 years old, to no, you're not waking my ass up at 8:30 in the morning. You're going to wake me up at 10:30 in the morning. And he's finally there. The last
Really?
4 days, he's woken up at 10:30 in the morning instead of 8:30. And I said, oh, great. Let's go feed you now.
Wait a minute. Are you
You've learned.
are you sleeping longer? Or are you going to bed later? What are you doing? I mean,
I do. It depends. You know, I mean, I usually don't go to sleep until about midnight, right? Because I always watch the Late Show, whatever, you know.
right.
But like last night, I was up until like 2 o'clock in the morning. A few days ago, my wife and I, we were streaming something, and we got into the show, and I was like, keep watching it. And it was a mini series, so it was kind of, you know, eight
I know.
episodes or
Trust me,
whatever.
we've all gotten in it.
And it was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was finally over. I said, okay, time to go to sleep. 4 o'clock in the morning. You know, and I don't have to get up. I don't have to worry about getting up at 7 o'clock, getting on a phone call with England, or being here at 9 o'clock at night, being on a phone call with Japan. I mean, that was my life, you know, and that all just fades away now, just beautifully. And I'm very, very relaxed after 3 weeks of one last practice for retirement, where I didn't know what day of the week it was. Literally, I said I started to coin that every day is a Saturday when you retire, right? Every day is a Saturday. And
That's it. I'm retiring. You convinced me.
I started to have this, my mind just was like, there was like a Friday where
That's it.
I thought
Dunbarton
it was
Tobacco Trust is for sale. I want all.
I thought it was a
I want all
Saturday.
Saturdays. I want all
Right?
Saturdays.
Yeah,
I
I
do.
thought the Friday was a Saturday, and then when the Saturday, and then I said no, it's actually Friday, and then when Saturday came, I thought it was a Sunday, but no, it's actually the Saturday. My whole everything, and I forgot to put the garbage out on Thursday night because I didn't realize Friday pickup, and the next day was Friday. I thought it was Saturday going to be literally,
This is a
seriously. That's
curiosity question.
what it
Do
is.
you even have 6 live viewers at this moment? Because if you do, they really need to
Yeah.
find a better thing to do with their Saturday night.
Yeah. No, it has. Yeah, there's six live right now, but
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Like what the fuck?
they're still hanging on. Well, some of these guys listen to it in their car. You know,
Uh,
it's these guys. Everybody's chiming up and laughing.
like,
How it
like,
goes.
you know what? I'm done. I'm ready to leave too. So,
That's it. All right. Steve, as always, it's a pleasure.
thank you, Jimmie.
I appreciate you taking your time out on a Saturday night to do this. I'm looking forward to see you obviously at PCA. Get back together. I'll give you a last word as always.
Yeah, well, I just want to say thank you for rating Krakatoa and Papa Saka so high. It's much appreciated. I'm glad you enjoyed them both.
They were awesome.
Yeah,
So,
thanks.
all right, folks. That's the show. We'll see you next week. I'm sure I'll have a guest. And until then, stay smoky, enjoy your life. And that's the end of today's show.